Hello, can you believe another week's wrapping up already? Marty here with you with the Warehouse and Operations as a Career podcast. 2 weeks ago, we mentioned narrow aisles while talking about stand-up forklifts and forward steer and reverse steer units, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about that history for a little bit today. I reached out to WAOC's good friend Joe. As you'll remember from several earlier episodes, Joe is a General Industrial CSHO, or Certified Safety and Health Official, and one of our go-to ops guys when we're looking for experience with something or anything at all to do with safety. Joe, how have you been doing?
Busy, that's for sure. I'm sure like yourself, they always have me running around doing this, that, or the other. Especially with some new facilities that are about to be opened.
Well, taking one of your old sentences, I guess that's why they call it work instead of fun, right?
True, very true.
I kind of cut my teeth on a set-down counterbalance lift. It was a Hyster lift, moving washers and dryers and heavy meter parts from the docks and rail cars to a staging dock pretty much all day long. I wasn't doing much racking of product and really didn't have much occasion to go into the aisles at the time at all. It was a great job. It gave me a lot of experience unloading containers and trailers with my lift, but it was mostly hauling freight and not really storing product. I did that for about 3 years and then found me a job with a national distribution facility where I had to quickly learn the storage aspect of my chosen profession. It didn't take me long to realize that I didn't know quite as much about being one with my lift as I thought I was. Hauling and storing product are really two different things, aren't they?
Oh yeah, one is definitely dock flow and the other I would definitely put under warehousing.
Exactly. That kind of brings me to what I'd like to talk about today. I'd like to talk about the narrow aisle in the warehousing for a couple of minutes. The facility I was with was kind of landlocked, or there was other companies on either side of ours, so we didn't have any room at all to grow. I'm talking back in the early 90s. I guess it was probably around 1993, 1994. Warehouse space was expensive at the time, and really there wasn't a lot of new buildings available. Real estate was expensive back then, and companies were looking for every efficiency they could find and making do with what they had. I think our building was like 160,000 square feet and housed our dry, cooler, and freezer departments. I remember all of our storage aisles was 11 foot 4 inches wide. They were a bit tight to operate the set down in, but it was very doable. A good operator could pretty easily and safely make the swing and that 90-degree turn into the slots. It didn't take me very long to learn to store freight, and I developed those skills just with some on-the-job training. As I mentioned, real estate was expensive at the time and really, honestly, in short supply. My company had the opportunity to purchase the building next door and turned it into our freezer facility. Ended up giving us an additional 80,000 square feet or so, which eased some of the congestion, but due to our growth, we really needed quite a bit more. I guess that's where the corporate engineers jumped in and helped solve our problems. It was determined that if we flipped our pick path and shortened the width of the aisles to 9 feet 2 inches, we could pick up the additional aisles and slots that we needed for that growth, and that's how I became a stand-up reach truck driver. We traded in all of our set-down lifts for those narrow aisle stand-ups. I think the typical width for a counterbalance is something like 11 to 13 feet. Of course, as we all know, a stand-up reach is like 8 to 10 feet. And then you've got that very narrow aisle turret truck operating in the 6 to 7 feet aisles. That really amazes me, and I've got to operate one of those someday. So, Joe, are you seeing more warehouses moving towards narrow aisles now? Is it the cost of real estate driving the move, or more like efficiencies that they can bring with them?
Marty, that's a very good question, and I would like to say that it's probably both. It's going to be one of those things that's governed by where the businesses originate from and definitely on real estate. I have found that when I worked for a very large German-owned company, the very model of the new warehouse that we were going to be moving into was, there was no other choice other than to bring in stand-up reach truck, all stand-up type equipment to keep the aisles very narrow. To be able to put in as many aisles as possible was the idea. Keeping with that, the length of the aisles, the distance between the two that allow for the clearance of these PITs coming in and out of there, that's when you start dealing with accuracy, efficiency, and most of all, safety. Just because it's been determined that, okay, this is the minimum width that you have or need to bring in this reach truck to be able to stock these goods all the way up to the third level, doesn't mean that it's something you could do blindfolded. It means you have to approach it with a very safety conscious attitude, as well as accuracy in being that you're being safe with handling the product, that you're not bumping into the racking itself or damaging the equipment. And, sometimes that can be overwhelming when it's a stressful time of the day and, the order and production is calling for it.
Yeah, of course, safety, has got to be a component of everything that we do. You're absolutely right. And I'm sure that the engineers, they figure out, exactly how many inches you have to make that swing and how many inches you have to make that lift. But it really kind of boils down. We got to be comfortable with it as operators also. I guess it only makes sense with the cost of land or even the availability of land. It only makes sense to grow up instead of out. I'm seeing stack heights or rack height extending straight up, really. Most of the facilities I visit have like a 24, 28, or even a 35-foot lift height. But I notice on the Raymond Corp website, they have a 542-inch reach truck available, so I assume someone is using even all the way up to 45-foot height. I'll include a link to their website in today's show notes. WAOC is not affiliated with them in any way. I just happen to like their equipment and I noticed it. And you know what? I guess with the conveyor equipment that's available now, it's possible to even go higher, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, Marty. Some businesses have gone from large sit-down counterbalance forklifts to even smaller electric type in shrinking the product down just to have them be able to stock more and be more nimble inside the warehouse. Every warehouse is a little bit different, but all this equipment it's fantastic. Once you get out there, you actually touched on something that I was going to bring up too, and that's turret trucks. The need for a turret truck is very specific, and I would say it definitely has to do with space and be able to grow up instead of out. That's the only limitation for growing out is going to be, actual dollars and property lines. The sky is the limit, as they say.
It really is. In a turret truck, I have to drive a turret truck. Raymond Harrell, our friend that does the YouTube videos on warehousing, he's up in Canada. He he invited me up there and told me if I'd come up there, he'd make sure that I got to operate one. That's quite a ways to go to operate a turret truck, though. Earlier I mentioned conveyor systems. I guess with mezzanines and carousels and even robotics being utilized today, as you just said, we'll only see those warehouses getting taller and taller. In our last two episodes, Joe, I mentioned forward steer and reverse steer stand-ups, and we've received quite a few questions about what's the difference. Can you explain it to us?
Yes, sir. Well, Marty, I happen to be a train-the-trainer for one of the very large forklift manufacturing companies out there. And what I could tell you is, from what I've seen, there's lifts that are made and configured to be driven in reverse, whereas the horn, everything, there's an actual toggle that you hit, and it'll make those controls back there live. There's several reasons for this. It could be some procedural. Maybe that's you mentioned pick pass and how engineering gets involved. It could be something related to that where they think it's more efficient if the operator just turns around and goes back, to feed whatever lines or retrieve whatever product. It could be, partly due to safety and previous incidents and experience that company has. Uh, One of the things that I can tell you is no matter what it is, if we go back to 29 CFR 1910.178, specifically A4, it brings up modifications and additions, and it tells you that the only people that should really be modifying it or doing anything or putting their hand in it is going to be the actual equipment manufacturer. And if they don't do it, well, then it has to be authorized and or approved by them. And, you usually have to have some kind of proof that it was done. So most of the time when you see that, someone's gone way out of their way to make it a reverse steer.
That's true, and I've heard that, if you have reverse steer or you have forward steer, it's got to be one or the other in your building, that a building's not allowed to have either or a mixture of the two in the building. I found a really good website, forkliftaction.com, and they've got a forum discussion. I'll put those links in the today's show notes as well. It's pretty interesting. And, I think that by default, steering on a stand-up or reach truck or even the stackers, it's designed for the load to be carried trailing the operator. And any modifications made after that, like you said, I'm sure it's got to be in writing from the manufacturer or at least the company that you're working for.
It does, and it happens to be one of those things that's very hard to get around. Making sure that everybody's trained the same way, even from just a business standpoint, you would want to train everyone to be able to operate the most common piece of equipment that you have.
That's true. And, us as operators, once again, it's kind of our responsibility to be focused, to be aware of what it is that we're driving. I know I have switched on and off of forward and reverse. And, you get in a bind or you get in a tight situation, you've got to really be thinking about what you're driving. You don't want to turn right thinking you're going to go right and end up going left. You could end up hitting a rack or really kind of hurting somebody. So it's really our awareness again, I guess, something that we've got to really be careful with. A few months back, you were telling all of our listeners about the Distribution Training Center. I think we were out at the Taste of Oak Lift event. It was a cold, windy, wet day. I've been over there. It's looking good and about ready to open. Anything that you'd like to share with our listeners that are here in Texas?
Yes, that was a very, very cold event. But, the Distribution Training Center is something that quite a few of us have been working on. There's a whole lot of experience that went in behind it and setting it up and structuring it, putting it together and making it happen. At the DTC, we're going to be able to also teach other things than basic forklift operation. All right. We've teamed up with a local company that'll help us place individuals once they've successfully completed some of the training that we have. And, hard work always stands out, plain and simple. We'll also be able to teach OSHA 10 and 30-hour classes. We've targeted several companies that we've partnered with to get their supervision, some of their fresh management through there. The OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 are very good at opening young supervisors' eyes to see those things that maybe they just didn't notice before or have never questioned. We're also going to provide hazmat training as needed. We're authorized by several different partner groups to provide all this training for any aspect of the commercial industry. We can help train first responders if they have a first responder program, CPR, AED programs. Our main focus at the DTC is on employee awareness and success.
That's one of the really neat things I see with it is you're teaching Warehouse 101, everything to do not only with safety, but from the time you walk in the door to using the time clock to being aware of your surroundings, all the different utility positions that, every employee is responsible for. I'm pretty excited about it, and I can't wait to go through that very first class.
And we can't wait to have you. Experience is one of those things that's hard to come by. So how do you get a job at a warehouse that only wants to hire experience? If you ever look at the want ads, experience, experience, experience. Well, the truth of the matter is at least for me, is when I got my first break, I sure wasn't authorized to do it, but I was under direct supervision of someone who was teaching me how, that took the time out of their day to give me that break and give me that opportunity. And I think that's essentially what we're going to be doing too.
Well, WAOC is going to come out there. We're going to do a couple of episodes from the DTC facility. I'm really looking forward to that, man.
Great. We can't wait to have you. Hope to have things, really jumping by then.
Fantastic. Well, it's that time again, Joe. Thanks for calling in today. I really appreciate the time that you spend with our group. I know you've got plenty of other things going on.
Oh, I always have time for you guys. Make sure you guys invite me here pretty quick or pop on over to the DTC. We'll be waiting on you.
Yeah, I'll be over there just as soon as you get it opened up and it'll have us. And I appreciate each of you listening in, and I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we did putting it together today. I'll include those web pages in today's show notes if you'd like to read up on some of the things or thoughts that we mentioned. And they'll be on our website at warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com. And if you have a minute, I'd appreciate the like and follow on Facebook and Twitter, where you can find us using that little @ sign, WHSEANDOPS. Let's all keep working on our plan, on our goals, and above all, be safe doing it.